Hello and welcome to the F1Stop show. I'm your host, Sam Oney, and with me is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you tonight?
I'm pretty good. I'm very, very warm because I'm sure you are as well. Because yeah, we're in the middle of a heat wave at the moment, and it's absolutely boiling. And it's humid, it's muggy as well, so
It is.
it's sticky and sweaty, and yeah, I mean, it's the warmth is nice, but at the same time, it's nice to cool off a bit, to have a nice cold shower at the end of the day. But I'm all good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good. Very good. Um, yeah, as you said, it's hot, it's sweaty, it's humid, it's 27 degrees in Orpington, so it's very hot. Um, so the Austrian Grand Prix round, I don't know, seem to have forgotten. I
11, I
think
think.
11,
Round 11,
round 11.
halfway point of the season.
Yeah, halfway point. Another 11 races to go. And well, let's jump into it. Charles Leclerc, winner in Spielberg. Great performance from him. What do you make of it?
Yeah, brilliant performance from Leclerc and Ferrari. They pretty much, besides the sprint race where I think Verstappen finished third, but you had Ferrari P2 and P3 in the sprint race, and Ferrari were on for a 1-2, obviously the main race, and until Sainz's engine gave way late in the race, which we'll get which we'll get onto in a bit. Pierre Leclerc, he had so much pace, and he overtook Verstappen what, three times for the race lead, obviously
Yeah.
after pit stops and what have you. So yeah, I think to overtake someone three times the race lead is. I mean, usually strategy comes into play somewhere, and whether it's undercut, overcut, whatever. Um, yeah, I think they were going to go for a one stop, I think, until uh, Science's engine failure brought out the VSC. And they made it a two stop. Yeah, it was a pretty. I know Verstappen was dominant last year, but you could almost say Leclerc was pretty dominant this year, with the exception of qualifying. Yeah, exceptional performance from him. I think he claws back another 5 or 6 points on Verstappen in the Drivers' Championship. It's a bit of a shame Sainz didn't get the P2 for Ferrari, because that would spice up the constructors' battle a bit more as well. But overall, yeah, a great win for Leclerc. Is his fifth in Formula One, his first win since the 10th of April, of the Australian Grand Prix, round three. Been
Wow.
8 rounds since Charles Leclerc won a Grand Prix, and yeah, he's finished in points positions here and there. Um, yeah, it was a long time between race wins for Charles Leclerc, and I think he needed that in Austria to claw back some points at a track that Red Bull has been so, as I say, dominant in the last couple of years.
And as you said, Carlos Sainz suffered an engine failure. But before we get into that, let's dive into the race as it happened. And it didn't take long for something to happen on lap one with um with a shot. Sorry, it didn't take long for something to happen with George Russell in the Mercedes colliding with Sergio Perez in the Red Bull, and with the Mexican going off track, and he eventually had to retire from the race.
Yeah, and it's once again it's that turn four, isn't it? That sort of downhill right-hander, where we've seen Hamilton push off Albon a couple of years ago. We've seen, I think it was Norris and Perez last year as well. I can't remember. Yeah, we saw Vettel go off there later in the race too. I mean, it is the main overtaking spot, and I think people try and go around the outside is because it is downhill. Basically, so you have more momentum going around the outside. You think you can carry more speed.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was, so like, whether if it was quite level or even uphill, then you wouldn't really try that as much. But because it's downhill, people think, yeah, we've got more speed, and it's not the tightest of corners. It's fairly smooth. It's not like turn three, for example, where it is pretty much a hairpin right-hander uphill as well. Um, yeah, I think that incident in itself, I think it was a difficult one to call, to be honest. I mean, looking at both the onboards, you could say that Perez turned in a bit on Russell. Arguably, he did. I think Russell gave enough space, so it's a tricky one. And yeah, for me, I think I'll be putting that down as a racing incident because
Hmm.
I don't really think you can point the finger at either of them. I think it is fairly 50-50, but as you say, Perez eventually retired from the race. It was quite a few laps into the Grand Prix, lap 26, so ran about a third of the way into the race. And yeah, Russell got penalised for it as well. Got a 5-second time penalty, which obviously he took when he made his pit stop. Which I don't think hampered him too much. He still finished P4 in the end, was it?
I
Um,
couldn't finish before.
yeah, so yeah, again another top five finish for George Russell. Um, yeah, for Russell's race, I don't think it had the greatest impact on his race. So at the end of the day, he wouldn't have minded that too much. But in the heat of the moment, I think yeah, it's probably more racing incident, I think, for me than pointing the finger at Perez or Russell.
Now, there were three key areas that I really enjoyed about the Austrian Grand Prix. One of them being Charles Leclerc getting the win. As for the other two, what we really like as F1 fans is really good racing. And turn 3, lap 24, 5 cars. Haas, McLaren, Alpine, and Alfa Romeo. Is that 4 cars? No, four cars. No, 5 cars. I'm getting it all wrong. Getting it all
Yeah,
wrong.
there were four teams but 5 cars because you
Four
had both
teams,
Haas's in there. Yeah,
exactly. 4 teams, 5 cars. And well, if your name is Lando Norris, Guan Yu Zhou, K-Mag, Mick Schumacher, and Fernando Alonso, well, hats off to you guys because it was brilliant racing from those 5 drivers. I was actually so my jaw was literally dropping. Like, really, 3 cars going into turn 4 now, becoming 5? Is that really possible? What did you make of it? I was really excited by that.
yeah. As you say, it was, I suppose, arguably the most exciting moment of the race. Potential exceptions being obviously Leclerc's overtakes on Verstappen. I think just going back to that for just a second, I think Leclerc's first overtake where I think went up the inside at turn 4. I think that was a brilliant move because it was quite a late lunch. Yeah, as you say, that sort of 5 car, I think it was like a battle for 8th place or something. So it's not even like a major points paying position, but yeah, to see, as you say, 5 cars, 4 different teams, it's almost like a flashback to last week where we had 5 cars from 5 different teams battling for, I think it was P2 over at Silverstone.
Yeah.
Yeah, to see midfield teams, yeah, from various different histories, various different sort of, no, I can't. I'm looking for a word. I can't think what it is, but they're just completely different, I suppose. All fighting for it's P8, but as you say, going 3 wide or 3 cars. Yeah, it was 3 wide, as you say, into turn 3, and you don't get that very often. Yeah, to see the likes of an Alfa Romeo in Guan Yu Zhou, to see both Haas's in there, Alonso, Norris, brilliant racing, and yeah, more of that, please. And I think these new regulations are allowing more of that. I think that's been proven time and time again already this season. We're up to the halfway point now, and I think we can safely say that these regulations have improved F1. They've improved wheel-to-wheel racing because I can't remember many times in previous Austrian Grand Prix or even previous British Grand Prix from last week, where you've had so many cars from so many different teams all vying for one spot, whether it's P2, whether it's P8, whether it's P14, 15, whatever. To have loads of different cars, and as you say, it's not just the drivers, it's the teams as well. 4 or 5 different teams battling for what would be 4 points at the end of the day for P8 is I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's what excites you as an
It
F1
is.
fan, because you got up and coming drivers in the likes of Norris, Zhou, you got more experienced Alonso and K-Mag, all fighting for one spot. And it was, yeah, as you say, it was arguably the most exciting moment of that race.
And it's those drivers that they're not they're not battling for the championship. They're not battling for the constructors. They're just out there bringing us good racing, and that was really enjoyable. Now, the other thing that I really loved about the Austrian Grand Prix was the moment that Mick Schumacher passed Lewis Hamilton on turn four. I was just, no, it's bringing back Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton vibes. It was brilliant. It was brilliant from Mick, and he even finished P6. That's his highest ever finish in his entire Formula One career. P6.
Yeah, and an outstanding result for Haas. I mean, given obviously the sort of troubles that they've had over the past like 2-3 years. Yeah, for them to get rewards. I know we saw it in the first couple Grand Prix with Magnussen, but yeah, Schumacher's just upped his game a little bit these last couple of races. He got his first points. I think it was at P8 in Silverstone, and now a P6. That's essentially best of the rest, if you like, for P6. Is a brilliant result, and I think everyone in the F1 community is so chuffed for Mick Schumacher, and it's just given us something to, or a bit more to look forward to now, because we now know he can compete with his teammate and can really battle for those points paying positions now. Yeah, as I say, to be battling with the likes of Hamilton, yeah, I know Mercedes aren't having the best year this year, but when you've got a 7-time world champion and you're overtaking him in a Haas, a car that's, I think at the moment they're 7th in the constructors championship, and you're battling a car that's 3rd in the constructors championship, is, yeah, quite something. And again, I suppose it goes back to the regulation changes a bit and allowing the likes of, well, just sort of resetting the playing field a little bit. Yeah, for Haas to get P6, P8, and for me, I think Hamilton had trouble with the Haas in the sprint qualifying from some bits and pieces and memes I saw on Twitter. I think the Haas were a bit of a problem child for Hamilton all weekend. Yeah, although Hamilton obviously got the better of them in the end, finishing P3, but it was a great moment, and yeah, something for us F1 fans to look forward to more often this season.
Indeed. And so if you had to pick one moment, one enjoyable moment from the Austrian Grand Prix, what would it be? Because there are plenty. There's overtaking, there's on track battles, you know, collisions. Not that it's enjoyable, but it's there. If you had to pick one moment.
Yeah, as you say, there were quite a few to choose from this week compared to, in say, last year's Austrian Grand Prix, Austrian and Styrian Grand Prix, where nothing really happened last year, but this year was so much more entertaining. But I think it has to be that 5-car battle for the 4 different teams.
Yeah.
Just the amount of color in there was great to watch, and engaging. But yeah, seeing those midfield drivers and midfield teams go wheel to wheel. I mean, as I said, yeah, it's only P8 at the end of the day, but I mean, the midfield is where I look out for quite a bit, because yeah, you quite often know he's going to sort of finish top 4, top 5, but it's the midfield, it's the teams, it's the underdogs. We like an underdog here in the UK, and for someone like a Guan Yu Zhou to scrape through a point or two is as exciting as a battle for first place between Verstappen and Leclerc, I think. But it's got to be that 5-car battle was moment of the race for me.
Same here. I could not agree more. I mean, when I saw it on the highlights, I was just, wow, this is what we want. This is what I love. And just seeing those 5 cars. And you know the amazing thing about that little glimpse about those 5 cars? There was no contact. There was no contact between those 5 cars. And I was like, wow, how can this be? Anyway.
And again, what, 3 out of the 5 are fairly young drivers, like aged like 25 and below. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
got K-Mag and Alonso who are a bit older, and I wouldn't say necessarily know what they're doing a bit more, but have that experience of
Mm.
going wheel to wheel with other racing drivers. So yeah, for, as you say, for there to be no contact, or at the very least minimal contact, is yeah, it bodes well for those youngsters.
So we've had Charles Leclerc picking up a win in Austria. We've had retirements. We've had Max Verstappen finishing second. How would you rate the race out of 10 in Austria?
I mean, it's a million times better than what than what it was last year. Just 'cause we actually remember things about this year compared to last year. I wouldn't say it was as good as Silverstone, but I'd still say it was a pretty good race. It was pretty exciting, as you say, various different battles in there. You got a bit of strategy playing out. I reckon it's worth an 8 out of 10. I think a pretty solid race. I mean, an enjoyable race. It was entertaining. Yeah, not quite on the level of as Silverstone.
Okay, okay. Right, you might fight me on this one. You might fight me on this one, but hear me out. Hear me out. Yes, we had the opening lap collision and stuff. We also had the 5 car battle, but I don't know. I thought it was missing a bit of a kick to it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe another battle somewhere. Maybe if the top 4 had gotten into their little battle or something with Verstappen, Leclerc, and Sainz, maybe we could have had something. So, but overall, it was a good race. So I'm gonna rate the race 7.5 out of 10. You see
Yeah,
where I'm
I
coming
think
from?
yeah, yeah, I can. It was just missing that little bit of spice, like as you say, like Silverstone. And I mean, if for example, I mean, both of these last 2 races have had incidents quite late on into the race. So
Yeah,
obviously at Silverstone it was Ocon's engine failing, and this week in Austria it was Sainz's engine failing and catching on fire. And one brought out a safety car, Ocon at Silverstone, whereas Sainz brought out a virtual safety car. Whereas if I think if Sainz's incident brought out a full safety car, then that could have made things just take it up to that extra level. I think move it from like an 8 out of 10 to maybe a 10 out of 10, because then that would really bunch the field up. They'd all be
mm,
on the same tires, and then it would be down to who's got the fastest car, who's the most skilled driver. And I think yeah, that just changing it from a VST to a full safety car would have changed things a bit, but they didn't need to in the end, which I suppose is a good thing. Um, but yeah, as you say, it was just missing a little bit of spice at the end, I think.
indeed. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's that for Austria, and the drivers' championship is looking it's looking all right. I mean, there's a 38-point gap between the top 2 in Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, with Verstappen, the Dutchman, on 208 points and Charles Leclerc is on 170. Whereas, uh, looking at the from 10th to 6th, we've got Alonso on 29, Bottas 46, Ocon 52, Norris 64, Hamilton 109. So it's spread out. I think the difference that I've seen with this season so far and comparing it to last season's top 10 at round 11, I thought the points were a bit, it's all quite bunched together, if you get what I mean. Whereas this one is like, it's almost nicely spread out. I don't know, maybe it's the regulations again.
Yeah, I think as you say, with last year, you always sort of had these sort of definable sort of groups of cars, if you like. So it's like you had your top 3, you had your top 2 basically of Red Bull and Mercedes last year, and Ferrari was sort of third, and then it was just a case of you had about 4, 5 teams in the midfield, ranging from like McLaren, Alpine, Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo, well, maybe not Alfa Romeo last year, but Aston Martin maybe. Then you had sort of the bottom 2 or 3, which you had your Haas, your Williams, your Alfa Romeo. Whereas this year it is, as you say, a little bit more spread out. There's no really sort of definable sort of groupings of teams and of drivers. I mean, yeah, you've obviously got your usual top 3, your Red Bull, your Ferrari, your Mercedes, but McLaren and Alpine are level on 81 points, joint 4th in the constructors. You've got Alfa Romeo on 51 in 6th place. You've got Haas now with 34 points somehow from last year. You got Alpha Tauri 7 points behind on 27, whereas Alpha Tauri had a pretty good last couple of years, and Aston Martin have just taken things down a notch, 18 points, and Williams have got 3 points, which I mean is something for them, I suppose, after the horrible number of years now that they've had in Formula One. Yeah, you still got. I mean, you're not going to see likes of an Aston Martin battling for the top 3 unless you go back to 2019 with the pink Mercedes Racing Point, or 2020, whatever it was. Yeah, it's certainly. I mean, you've got, like, as you say, just going through that drive, you've got Valtteri Bottas in 9th, you've got Kevin Magnussen in 11th, beating the likes of Ricciardo, Gasly, Vettel, Tsunoda, Lance Stroll, even. It's jumbled things up a little bit, and I'm all for it personally. And yeah, it's made for brilliant racing. And yeah, halfway through the season now, who knows? Who knows what the second
Who knows
half
what can happen?
Gonna hold? Yeah, we've got 2 more races until the summer break, and then yeah, I think summer break will just give teams a bit of a chance to reevaluate a little bit who their rivals are, where their aims for the rest of the season, and yeah, well, it's going to be an interesting second half of the season.
Indeed. Now, final question. We've had 11 rounds so far of Formula One. Points being picked up here and there. Which team has been your standout team? Which team has impressed you the most? We know drivers have impressed you the most, but which team has impressed you the most? Which partnership, however? Yeah.
I think quite a few have impressed me.
One
Ferrari.
One, just one.
I know. I think, I suppose Haas is probably the most obvious one. I mean, given how
that's a good
terrible to be quite blunt about it.
That's a very
they've been over the last 2-3 years not picking up. Did they pick up a point last year? I don't think so. I don't think they picked up any points the year before either. They might have done. I can't remember now. But yeah, for them to get 34 points in the first half of the season, and yeah, it doesn't sound like much, but for them to get any points at all after the horror show that was last year when they were so far off the pace of even like Williams, for them to get points and be now 7th in the constructors is a brilliant result for them. And yeah, I'm not going to name anymore. I mean, I could. there are a couple of other teams that have impressed me, but
go on then.
You just asked for one, so
your top 3 then.
Top 3. Yeah, I mean, top 3 would be not really in. I suppose Haas and Alfa Romeo are the top 2. I mean, probably Haas, Alfa Romeo in 6th, and then Ferrari. Given they've been lacking something over the last, as I say, 2 years. So yeah, for them to be now properly in the title fight again is welcoming. Yeah, Haas and Alfa Romeo, I think, have just been on a slightly different level this year in terms of how much they've improved from last year.
Indeed. Well, those are great choices, and I can't not agree with you on that, because the team that has really impressed me the most has got to be Alfa Romeo. You can give me other arguments, but Alfa Romeo have been pretty impressive. I mean, we've seen some results where, I mean, can you imagine Valtteri Bottas leaving Mercedes after 5 years, going to a new team? You're thinking, how's he going to cope? But he's put in some decent results. But Guan Yu Zhou, in his debut season, first Chinese driver to enter Formula One, and he's put on quite a show. Again, 1 or 2 top 10 finishes this season. So I've been really impressed by Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, so as I say, I mean, yeah, Bottas has got 46 points, shows just got 5, but Bottas has been in F1 for 9 years now, whereas obviously Joe is his first year. And as you say, for him to be, I think to be even getting points as a rookie in an Alfa Romeo is a solid achievement. And yeah, for him, as we've already mentioned, to be in that battle out in Austria is yeah, good. And people saying, is he another pay driver? Why is people like Oscar Piastri, Theo Porcher not racing? But I think Joe he's doing a solid job so far this season. And yeah, as you say, Alfa Romeo on the way up from last year, which is great for Formula One.
And Ferrari as well, they're doing a decent job too. So we've only got 11 more races to go, and it's going to be exciting. So we've come to the end of another episode of the F1Stop show. Hope you've enjoyed it. We've had some great racing. Charles Leclerc picking up another win to add to his championship battle with Max Verstappen. I've been your host, Sam Oney, and it's a goodbye from me. Bye-bye. And it's a goodbye from Wes.
Bye bye.
And we hope you have a very good week ahead.